My name is Sakshi, and I'm going to discuss upon the economic problem that is corruption and red tape. Corruption and red tape has been persistent economic problems in India, hindering its growth and development from decades. From bureaucratic hurdles to bribery scandals, these issues have promoted various sectors, stifling efficiency, innovation, and investment. Now let's look upon the historical context. India's struggle with corruption and red tape can be traced back to its colonial past and subsequent independence. During British rule, bureaucratic systems were established to control and exploit resources, leading to a culture of administrative insufficiency and corruption. Post independence, the legacy of bureaucracy persisted, exacerbated by the socialist economic policies adopted by the newly independent nation. License Raj, a system of permits, licenses, and regulations, created a breeding ground for corruption as bureaucrats dwelled excessive power over economic activities. Then in 1991, economic reforms aimed to liberalize India's economy and reduce bureaucratic control. However, corruption and red tape remained pervasive due to the entrenched interests and systemic weaknesses. Now let's look upon the corruption as an economic problem. Corruption in India takes various reforms, including bribery, nepotism, and cronyism. It distorts market mechanism, allocates resources inefficiently, and undermines the rule of law. Businesses often face extortion, the demand for bribes from governments officials at all levels, leading to increased cost of operation and reduced competitiveness. Moreover, corruption erodes trust in institutions, discouraging domestic and foreign investment and impeding economic growth. Red tape as an economic barrier. Red tape refers to the excessive bureaucratic procedures and regulations that hinder business activities and economic growth. In India, bureaucratic delays, complex regulations, and arbitrary decision making contribute to red tape, creating barriers to entrepreneurship, innovation, and investment. Obtaining permits, licenses, and approvals often involves navigating through a maze of paperwork and bureaucratic bottlenecks, deterring business expansion and stifling productivity. Now, what's the impact on the economic development? The pervasive presence of corruption and red tape undermines India's economic development in several ways. Firstly, it fosters the rent seeking culture where individuals and businesses seek to profit through illicit measures rather than their productive activities. This diverts resources away from the productive investment, perpetuating inefficiency and inequality. Secondly, corruption and red tape deter foreign investors who are wary of investing in a business environment rife with corruption and uncertainty. Then, what are the challenges in implementing these measures? Addressing corruption and red tape in India requires a multi pronged approach, encompassing legal reforms, institutional strengthening, and cultural change. Now, first we look upon the institutional weakness. India's bureaucratic institutions often lack transparency, accountability, and capacity to enforce anti corruption laws effectively. Legal loopholes. Despite legislative reforms, loopholes in anti corruption laws and weak enforcement mechanism undermine their effectiveness. Then the political will. Tackling corruption requires political will and leadership commitment, which is often lacking due to the vested interest and electoral conditions. Political patronage networks and the nexus between the politicians and the business interests complicate efforts to root out corruption. Socio-cultural factors. Then is the corruption is deeply entrenched in the India's social fabric, fueled by the cultural norms of patronage and favoritism. Economic incentives. The informal economy, characterized by the cash transactions and the unregulated activities, provides fertile ground for the corruption to thrive. Now, corruption and red tape continue to pose significant problems to India's economic development, undermining competitiveness, stifling innovation, and perpetuating the inequality. Addressing corruption and red tape requires a concerned effort by policymakers, businesses, civil society, and citizens to promote transparency, accountability, and ethical governance. Only through collective action can India overcome this entrenched economic problem and realize its full potential as a vibrant and inclusive economy.